Choosing the right analysis method is a crucial step in any qualitative research project. But with so many options available, it can often feel a little overwhelming. Thematic analysis, content analysis, discourse analysis. The list goes on and on. To add to the confusion, there's a lot of overlap between methods, and the same words sometimes mean different things depending on which textbook you're reading. Don't worry though. In this video, we'll unpack the big 4 qualitative analysis methods using straightforward, non-academic language so that you can make the right choice for your research project. Let's do it. All right, let's start by outlining the big 4 qualitative analysis methods. It's worth saying up front that these are certainly not the only methods that you can use, but they are by far the most commonly used ones, so they're a good starting point. The big 4 methods are thematic analysis, content analysis, discourse analysis, and narrative analysis. Now, while all of these methods will help you analyze text-based data, they are different tools for different jobs. In other words, each of them is better or worse suited to certain types of research aims. By carefully selecting the right method, you'll ensure that your study's findings are both meaningful and aligned with your broader research goals. Put plainly, you need to pick the right tool for the right job. So where to start? Well, let's first unpack each method, and then we'll look at how to choose the right one. On a side note though, if you're working on a dissertation, thesis, or research, be sure to check out our meaty collection of free templates and checklists. These are tried and tested resources that will help you fast-track your research and writing, and avoid all of the costly mistakes that we've seen thousands of students make. You can find the links to those in the description. All right, first up, we've got thematic analysis. By far, the most common qualitative analysis method you'll encounter. Thematic analysis focuses on patterns and themes. This makes it ideal for research that explores why or how people experience or perceive an event or phenomenon. For example, if your research aims are to understand how remote workers perceive the experience of working from home, thematic analysis could help you identify recurring themes, such as flexibility, lack of community, or improved productivity. Thematic analysis can be used on a variety of data types, including individual interview or focus group transcripts, open-ended survey responses, or even personal diary entries. This flexibility, combined with its relative simplicity, make it a popular option for studies that explore people's lived experiences. If you want to learn more about thematic analysis, be sure to check out our dedicated explainer video. You can find the link to that in the description. Next up, let's look at content analysis. Content analysis focuses on systematically quantifying, counting, and categorizing data to uncover patterns or trends. In other words, it takes a somewhat quantitative, numbers-based approach to analyzing qualitative, words-based data sets. Let's look at an example to make things a little more tangible. Imagine you're researching the portrayal of climate change across a sample of 100 newspaper articles. In this case, you could use content analysis to quantify how often certain terms, such as global warming or sustainability, appear within that data set to understand the prevalence of these terms. Beyond just quantifying these terms, you could also use content analysis to explore how certain terms are connected. For example, is there a presumed cause and effect relationship between certain terms, like social media and mental health? This is called relational content analysis. In a nutshell then, content analysis allows you to systematically quantify qualitative data and explore the relationship between terms. This makes it particularly useful if you're working with large data sets and want to explore the frequency of specific words, phrases, or concepts. If you'd like to learn more about content analysis, check out our dedicated explainer video. You can find the link in the description. All right, Third in the qualitative analysis queue is narrative analysis. As the name suggests, narrative analysis focuses on the structure and content of stories, exploring how people make sense of their lives and experiences. This makes it particularly useful for research that involves detailed personal accounts. For example, if you're studying the experiences of healthcare workers during a crisis, narrative analysis would allow you to examine how they frame their stories, what events they highlight, and how they interpret their experiences. In other words, by analyzing the stories they tell, you'd gain a deep insight into their experience of the event itself. As you can probably tell, narrative analysis is especially useful for research that explores personal experiences, identities, and social meanings. It works best when you need to understand how people make sense of events rather than just what happened. This can be particularly useful within the fields of psychology, sociology, education, and cultural studies. As always, we've got a dedicated explainer video covering narrative analysis in more detail. So if you're interested in this specific analysis method, be sure to watch that. All right, last but certainly not least, we've got discourse analysis. In broad terms, discourse analysis is a tool that you can use to study language in context. But what exactly does that mean? Well, let's look at those two terms: language, the words used, and context. In other words, the setting, location, time period, etc. With discourse analysis, you'll typically explore the connection between those two things. For example, you might look at how the language used by a political party is used to influence or shape people's thinking and perspectives about a hot topic like climate change. Discourse analysis can also be used the other way around. In other words, the language that people use can tell you a lot about their context. For example, analyzing how employees within an organization speak about management can provide insight into the power dynamics and organizational culture itself. Now, it's important to provide a little disclaimer here. There are various types of discourse analysis, and how they are used will depend on the field of study. For example, discourse analysis within linguistics has a different focus than discourse analysis in socio-political fields, like the example we looked at. Nevertheless, they all share the common purpose of studying language in context. At this point, you might be asking, how is discourse analysis different from narrative analysis? Good question. The key difference here is the focus of the analysis. Specifically, narrative analysis looks at how people tell personal stories and what that says about their experiences. Conversely, discourse analysis looks at how language is used in society to shape ideas and influence people, or what people's use of language tells us about the broader societal context. As always, if you'd like to learn more about discourse analysis, we've got a detailed explainer video covering exactly that. Link in the description. Now that we've looked at the big four qualitative analysis methods, the key question is, of course, how do I decide which method to use? Well, there are at least 3 factors that you need to consider. These are your research aim, your research question or questions, and your data set. Naturally, your choice of analysis method needs to align with each of these factors. So let's dig into them a little. First up, you need to consider the nature of your research aim, or aims. For example, if you aim to identify themes to understand shared experiences and perspectives, thematic analysis would likely be a good fit. If your research aims involve quantifying language use to track trends or compare sources, content analysis would likely be well aligned. If you aim to explore how individuals tell stories to make sense of their experiences, narrative analysis would be a natural fit. And if you aim to understand how language shapes power, beliefs, and social norms in media, or anywhere else, discourse analysis would likely be a solid option. Simply put, the overarching aim of your research is the natural starting point for deciding on an analysis method. Going back to our earlier analogy of the right tool for the right job, your research aim tells you what your job is. So think carefully about what you're trying to achieve and let that guide you. The next factor you need to consider is your research question or questions. Naturally, these questions should tightly align with your research aims, so there's a lot of overlap here. But it's still useful to consider the fit between your research questions and the big four. If your question focuses on what is happening or how often it's happening, content analysis could be a good tool for the job. If, on the other hand, you're asking why or how, aiming to understand experiences, perceptions, or behaviors, thematic analysis would likely be a strong contender. That said, it's also worth considering narrative analysis or discourse analysis, depending on your research aims. Last but not least, you need to consider the type of data you'll be working with. Naturally, different analysis methods are better or worse suited to certain types of data, so it's essential to take this variable into account. Thematic analysis requires rich, descriptive data that provide detailed insights into participants' experiences. This typically means a relatively small sample of interview transcripts, open-ended survey responses, or personal diaries. Content analysis, on the other hand, works best with large, systematic data sets that can be categorized or quantified. This could include news articles, social media posts, or transcripts of broadcast media. Narrative analysis is ideal for detailed, story-focused data, such as autobiographies, oral histories, or in-depth interviews where participants share personal experiences. And lastly, discourse analysis requires data rich in contextual and linguistic detail, such as political speeches, policy documents, or everyday conversations. As you can imagine, trying to use the wrong type of data for any given analysis method is a recipe for disaster. Having worked with thousands of graduate students, we've seen far too many students assume they'll be able to collect a certain type or amount of data and make grand plans around this, only to find themselves stuck when it comes to the analysis stage. Long story short, think conservatively and realistically about what data you'll be able to get your hands on to plan your analysis accordingly. We have covered a lot of ground, right? If you've made it this far, I'm sure you can appreciate that choosing the right analysis method is all about aligning your research aims, questions, and data with the strengths of each method. By doing so, you'll ensure your study is both meaningful and methodologically sound. If you're working on a dissertation, remember to check out our meaty collection of free templates and checklists. These tried and trusted resources will help you fast-track your research and writing and avoid all of the costly mistakes that we've seen thousands of students make. You can find the links to those in the description. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like and subscribe buttons. And be sure to check out this video next. I'll see you there.